I said this perspective on history illuminates new things. Defending the nomos, creating the nomos. Al-Qaeda is a classic example of defending a nomos. However, the idea of a global caliphate, this is new, this is not... I can quote many authors who say this is the influence of Marxism, etc. I don't even believe that. But actually, Al-Qaeda Islam is not pure Islam. It is a strange mixture of traditional Islamic ideas which can go back to certain readings of the Quran, but it's been mixed up with elements of global projects which are very influenced by Maoism, for example, and there are books written by real experts who have demonstrated them. So it's hybrid, and as such it's a typical product of the crisis of modernity. But this is nomos defensive. Whereas if you take Breivik or Matvey or the Russian nihilists, they are actually, or the Baader-Meinhof-Gruppe, their faction, the Red Army faction in Germany, these are not defending a nomos, they are creating a space where they are much closer to modernism. So you are completely right, and I thank you, because I do not want to say modernism explains everything. But looking at modernity, looking at the pressure of modernity on meaning can open up ways of understanding behavior which normally is irrational, it's criminal, it's mad. Yes, it's true, but there is a certain logic in the madness.
Bueno, hem començat parlant que Al-Qaeda era un exemple de terrorisme clàssic, havia explicat prèviament que hi havia dos tipus de terrorisme, el que defèn un nomos, que aquest seria l'exemple d'Al-Qaeda, i el cas de Breivik que he posat abans, de crear un nou nomos. En aquest sentit, pensa que la visió clàssica és veure Al-Qaeda com aquest tipus de terrorisme de defensa nomos, però que pensa que no seria exactament només això, sinó que incorporaria una perspectiva també global que recordaria alguns autors, entre ells una visió maoista. Després ha explicat que la modernitat està contenta de la teva pregunta perquè no pretén que la modernitat expliqui absolutament tot a partir d'ara, però sí que pensa que si incorporem aquest concepte de modernitat a com mirem les coses pot ajudar a entendre coses com el terrorisme, que són del tot irracionals, doncs li poden donar una explicació, una perspectiva d'explicació.
Jo estic molt d'acord que el modernisme no es pot reduir a una cosa només d'artistes i d'intel·lectuals i tot això, que té una vessant també social i política, però jo trobava a faltar una altra vessant que és el substrat material del modernisme. És a dir, que passen coses amb el món real, no és simplement una gent que comença a pensar, sinó que hi ha una traducció, això ve d'uns canvis reals amb la vida de les persones. L'única referència que jo he trobat aquí és la referència a la Primera Guerra Mundial. Però jo, acceptant aquesta idea que el modernisme s'ha de mirar des del vessant social i política, Roger ha mencionat Zygmunt Bauman. Zygmunt Bauman té un llibre que jo trobo que és genial, si es pot recomanar aquí llibres, que és Modernity and the Holocaust. Jo crec que aquí és realment on fa servir no la modernitat com a explicació de l'Holocaust, no, sinó que com això ens ajuda a comprendre, entre altres coses, com es va produir una cosa tan terrible com l'Holocaust. Després traduiré l'anglès. La qüestió de que si el feixisme és o no és una reacció al socialisme. No és només això, però en part ho és. És a dir, que una cosa és quan surt o quan sorgeix un protofeixisme o el començament dels feixismes, I una altra cosa és quan es converteix en una opció, a vegades conscient, d'una part dels capitalismes més importants davant de l'amenaça que representa en un moment donat algunes forces que es podrien dir socialistes o anticapitalistes. I per no allargar-me, finalment volia comentar una frase que Roger ha dit al final, que diu que la democratització a l'estat espanyol es deu a la qualitat essencial del caràcter nacional espanyol. Vull dir que això no, jo crec que això no es pot dir en un àmbit acadèmic de cap manera. Això és sense qualificatius. Sorry, Roger, hauria d'explicar una cosa personal, si em permeteu. Resulta que Roger i jo, l'any 58, érem a la mateixa classe de l'escola primària. I no l'hem tornat a veure fins ara. I tinc una foto aquí que ho certifica. Okay, so what I was saying, sorry to come in to be so critical, but there are things in which I agree with others. I think it's very important to talk about modernity, not just in relation to art, philosophy, and so on. So a much wider, much more global perspective, taking in sociology, politics, etc. But what I missed in your account was the material basis for all this. Industrial. The only reference you seem to make, maybe it's because you were trying to condense too much into too short a time, was a reference to the First World Wars, the objectivization of modernity. But I think that really this other part is missing. It's not just a question of what people think, but it's about what's happening in people's lives, how it affects their lives. When you've got the reference to Zygmunt Bauman's Zenit and the Holocaust, which I think is a seminal work here, but it's not an attempt to explain Holocaust as deriving or from modernity, but it's to use this category to explain parts of it. It's not the whole explanation. Bauman doesn't say that. That's the whole thing. Question about whether fascism is simply a reaction to socialism. Not simply a reaction to, but once there are fascist ideas, fascist groups, there's a materialization of fascist ideas in fascist activists, then it is an option for the bourgeoisie if they feel threatened by socialist revolution, for example. So if it exists, it can be used conscientiously. Not saying that it's created consciously from the beginning, but it can be used. And the final thing, if you don't mind my saying so, is very harsh on your idea that democratization in Spain is due to the core quality of the Spanish national character. I don't think any national character is really an academic concept at all.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those comments. I'm conscious of the fact it's nearly 8 o'clock. I think you've been very, very patient. My talk was not meant to be a serious and analytical presentation of the ideas of 2 books, but really like throwing an approach into a room, and some came back in my face and some will stay. But I do think that if you read not books by me, but better books by people who've been influenced by me, you will see the power of these ideas, because they are much better, my ideas, when they're in the hands of people who spend a long time on a particular part of history. But there are people in Romania and Norway and various other countries who are using some of these ideas to write some fascinating stuff which I could never have started. And to that extent, I am not a good advert for my own ideas. But if it ever comes into Spanish, this book on aviation under the 2 fascist regimes is a fantastic. And if you're going to read the other book, Rite of Spring, Modris Eckstein's, absolutely fantastic. beautifully written, and I was never suggesting that the First World War is just a modernist event. But if you start looking at why so many people were prepared to die for their country, what was going on there? Really, if you probe, really, it's a very strange phenomenon, and I do think it's connected, and not my theory, this is his theory, to the convulsions of modern society. So we could debate that, but I would like to thank you. There's no such thing as national character, but I do love Spain and modern Germany, incidentally. I was taught that the Germans were warrior-like and like bombing you. And now Germany is full of people who don't want to fight and don't want to have wars. They may have funny ideas about economics, but they have learned liberalism very well, from my point of view. And I think we've forgotten some of our liberalism in England. And I'm amazed by the way Spain recovered from all those years of Franco, and it just shows that there is no national character, and that warrior people and destroyed peoples can be modern and liberal people can be warrior-like, and have Tony Blair as a socialist taking us into Iraq, and look, you never know what your people is or who your politicians are. So maybe I should have said that, but I agree that there is no national character. But since there is no national character, then we can have a good, happy, loving national character. Don't worry. Muchas gracias.
Gràcies.